The unexpected alliance. The great hall of the Celestian Star Palace shimmered with ethereal light, its crystal walls refracting the glow of 3 moons through prismatic patterns. Princess Venna stood before the High Council, her silver-tinted skin gleaming as she made an announcement that would shake the foundations of their 1,000-year empire. From this day forward, she declared, her voice carrying the weight of authority despite her youth, I will travel only with human companions. The declaration sent ripples of shock through the assembled dignitaries. The Celestians, known for their advanced technology and genetic perfection, had always viewed humans as fascinating but primitive creatures. Commander James Harrison, present as Earth's diplomatic representative, felt every eye in the room turn to him. He maintained his composure, though his mind raced with questions. At 43, he had seen his share of unusual situations during his time with the Interstellar Diplomatic Corps. But this was unprecedented. Chancellor Rylix, his aged face creasing with concern, stepped forward. Your Highness, surely you cannot be serious. The humans, while promising, lack the technological sophistication to properly protect you. Their lifespans are brief, their bodies fragile. They possess something far more valuable than technological advancement. Venna interrupted, her iridescent eyes fixed on the assembly. They have adaptability, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit that our people have lost in our pursuit of perfection. Harrison watched as several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. He could read the disdain on their faces, the dismissal of humanity as little more than clever animals. But there was something in Princess Venna's expression that intrigued him, a determination that suggested she knew far more than she was revealing. The princess continued, Commander Harrison will lead my personal guard, and I have already selected a crew of human specialists to accompany us on our diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim worlds. She turned to face Harrison directly. That is, if you accept the position, Commander. Harrison stood, adjusting his formal uniform. Your Highness, while I'm honored, I have to ask, why choose humans specifically? There are many species with more advanced capabilities. A slight smile played across Venna's lips. Because, Commander, in the last century since humanity joined the galactic community, you have accomplished more than most species do in a millennium. You've survived catastrophes that should have ended you, solved problems that stumped our finest minds, and shown a capacity for growth that defies all our predictive models. The assembly hall erupted in murmurs and whispers. Harrison could hear the mixture of outrage and curiosity in their voices. Princess Venna raised her hand, silencing the room with a gesture. My decision is final. The Celestian Empire stands at a crossroads. We have grown stagnant in our superiority, resistant to change. The human capacity for adaptation and innovation is exactly what we need to face the challenges that lie ahead. In the days that followed, Harrison worked closely with the princess to select his team. Dr. Rachel Foster, a xenobiologist whose groundbreaking research had revolutionized interspecies medicine. Lieutenant Nora Patel, a tactical genius whose unconventional strategies had saved countless lives during the Proxima crisis. Engineer Thomas Walsh, whose jury-rigged solutions had become legendary among spacefarers. As they prepared the Starship Luminary for their departure, Harrison found himself studying Princess Venna. She moved among the human crew with genuine interest, asking questions about their families, their experiences, their hopes. She was unlike any royal he had encountered. There was an urgency to her actions, a sense that she was preparing for something beyond a simple diplomatic tour. There's more to this than you're telling us, isn't there? Harrison asked her privately, as they reviewed security protocols in her ready room. Venna's expression grew serious. Yes, Commander. But I need you to trust that when the time comes, you'll understand why I chose humans, why I chose you, for this mission. Your people have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. My empire needs to learn how to invent again, how to adapt. We need the human spark. As the luminary prepared for departure, Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that they were embarking on something far more significant than a diplomatic mission. The princess's words echoed in his mind, and he wondered what challenges lay ahead that would require humanity's unique capabilities. The stars beckoned, and as the ship lifted off from the crystal spires of the Celestian capital, Harrison knew that their journey would either prove Princess Venna's faith in humanity justified, or demonstrate why some traditions should never be broken. Trials of Trust. The luminary's engines hummed softly as it cruised through the star-studded expanse of the Andromeda sector. 2 weeks into their journey, the human crew had settled into a rhythm alongside Princess Venna, though tension still simmered beneath the surface of their daily interactions. Engineer Thomas Walsh stood at his console, frowning at the readings before him. The ship's quantum sensors were detecting unusual fluctuations in the space-time fabric ahead. "Commander Harrison," he called out, his Irish accent thick with concern, "you might want to take a look at this." Harrison moved to Walsh's station, Princess Venna following close behind. The engineer pointed to a swirling mass of energy on his display. "It's like nothing I've seen before. The energy signatures are off the charts and are creating some sort of gravitational distortion." "A spatial anomaly?" Venna asked, her iridescent eyes studying the data. "The Celestian archives have no record of such phenomena in this sector." Lieutenant Nora Patel, manning the tactical station, spoke up. "Sir, we're picking up a distress signal. It's faint, but it's definitely coming from within the anomaly." Harrison exchanged glances with Venna. The princess's choice to trust humans was about to face its first real test. "Can we identify the source?" he asked. "It's a Meridian trading vessel," Patel replied, her fingers dancing across her console. "Their systems appear to be failing. They're trapped in the anomaly's gravitational pull." Dr. Rachel Foster stepped onto the bridge, her medical kit already in hand. "If there are survivors, they'll need immediate attention. That kind of spatial distortion can have severe physiological effects." The luminary's bridge crew waited for Harrison's decision. Standard protocol would advise against approaching such an unpredictable phenomenon, but there were lives at stake. Princess Venna watched him intently, perhaps wondering if her faith in human decision-making was about to be validated or questioned. "Walsh," Harrison called out, "can you establish a safe approach vector?" The engineer's fingers flew over his controls. "The anomaly's creating gravitational eddies, but I think I can plot a course through them. It won't be pretty, but it's possible." "Lieutenant Patel, prepare emergency transporters. Dr. Foster, have medical bay ready for multiple casualties." Harrison turned to Princess Venna. "Your Highness, I recommend you retreat to the safe room until—" "I will remain on the bridge, Commander," she interrupted firmly. "I chose a human crew because you think differently. Act differently. Show me why I was right." The luminary edged closer to the anomaly, its shield straining against the gravitational forces. Walsh's hand stayed steady on the controls, making minute adjustments as they navigated through the spatial distortions. The bridge crew held their breath as the ship shuddered around them. "Multiple hull breaches on the trading vessel," Patel reported. "They've got maybe 10 minutes of life support left. Their shields are preventing transport," Walsh added. "We'd need to get closer to establish a stable beam." Harrison's mind raced through options. Celestian protocol would demand a retreat, citing the risk to the royal passenger. But humans had a different approach to impossible situations. "Walsh, remember that trick you used during the Proxima crisis?" Harrison asked. "The one with the deflector dish?" A grin spread across the engineer's face. "Aye, Commander. Crazy then, crazy now, but it might just work." "Do it," Harrison ordered. "Patel, be ready to grab them the moment their shields fail." Walsh reconfigured the deflector dish, using it to create a counter-resonance to the anomaly's gravitational waves. It wasn't elegant, but it was innovative. Exactly the kind of solution that would never appear in a Celestian manual. The ship groaned as it pushed deeper into the anomaly. Warning lights flashed across every console, but Walsh's modifications held. They reached the trading vessel just as its shields began to collapse. "Now, Lieutenant," Harrison commanded. Patel's fingers flew across her console, and 6 shimmering columns of light appeared on the bridge. The traders materialized, their expressions a mixture of shock and relief. "Get us out of here, Walsh," Harrison ordered as Dr. Foster rushed to attend to the survivors. The luminary backed away from the anomaly, its engines straining against the gravitational pull. As they cleared the danger zone, Princess Venna stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement. That was... She paused, searching for the right words, not how a Celestian ship would have handled the situation. Harrison nodded. "No, it wasn't. We improvised, took calculated risks, trusted our instincts, and saved lives that would have been lost following standard protocols," Venna added. She turned to address the entire bridge crew. "This is exactly why I chose humans. You see possibilities where others see only obstacles." As the medical team led the rescued traders to sickbay, Harrison couldn't help but notice a change in how the princess carried herself. She seemed more confident, more certain of her controversial decision to rely on human crew members. But in the back of his mind, a question still nagged at him. Was this really just about humanity's unique approach to problem-solving? Or was Princess Venna preparing them for something even more challenging ahead? The spatial anomaly had tested their capabilities, but Harrison suspected it was only the beginning of their trials. Hidden agendas. The rescue of the Meridian traders had earned the Luminary's human crew respect throughout the sector, but it had also drawn unwanted attention. As they approached the Outer Rim worlds, Commander Harrison noticed increased activity from ships bearing Celestian diplomatic markings. They were being watched. Late in the ship's night cycle, Harrison found Princess Venna in the observation deck, her silver skin reflecting the starlight as she gazed out at the cosmos. She spoke without turning. "You have questions, Commander. I can sense your unease. 3 Celestian warships have changed course to shadow us in the past week," Harrison said, moving to stand beside her. "That's not standard diplomatic escort protocol." Venna's expression hardened. "No, it isn't. Those ships answer to Chancellor Rylix, not to me. Tell me, Commander, what do you know about Celestian history?" "Only what's in the public records. 1,000 years of unbroken peace and prosperity under your family's rule." A bitter smile crossed the princess's face. "Peace, yes. Prosperity, certainly. But at what cost?" She turned to face him fully. "Our empire is dying, Commander. Not from external threats or economic collapse, but from something far more insidious. Our own perfection." Dr. Rachel Foster entered the observation deck, pausing when she realized she was interrupting. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I can come back." "No," Venna said quickly. "Stay, Doctor. Your expertise is relevant to this conversation." She gestured for Foster to join them. "Tell me, what have you observed about Celestian biology during your research?" Foster hesitated, glancing at Harrison before answering. "Your genetic engineering is remarkable. Disease resistance, enhanced intelligence, extended lifespans. But," she trailed off. "But," Venna prompted. "But there's no variation, no adaptation. Every Celestian I studied has exactly the same genetic markers. It's as if your entire species just stopped evolving." "Precisely," Venna said softly. "We engineered ourselves into an evolutionary dead end. Each generation is a perfect copy of the last. We no longer adapt, no longer grow. We simply persist." Harrison frowned. "What does this have to do with choosing human companions?" The princess activated a holographic display, showing a string of complex molecular structures. "This is happening throughout our empire. Our colonies are failing because our perfectly engineered crops can't adapt to new environments. Our ships are becoming obsolete because our perfectly logical engineers can't imagine new solutions. We need change, adaptation, creativity. We need humanity's chaos." A new voice interrupted. Lieutenant Paddle stood in the doorway, her tactical mind already processing the implications. That's why you chose us, not just as companions, but as examples. Venna nodded. Chancellor Rylix and his supporters believe the solution is more control, more standardization. They want to preserve our perfect society by forcing every world in our empire to conform to Celestian standards. But I've seen where that path leads, to stagnation and eventual collapse. The diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim, Harrison said, realization dawning. It's not just about maintaining political ties. No, Venna confirmed. It's about finding worlds that have resisted Celestian influence, cultures that still embrace change and adaptation, and about showing my people there's another way forward. She hesitated, but Relix won't allow that to happen without a fight. Engineer Walsh's voice came over the intercom, interrupting their conversation. Commander, we're picking up multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, Celestian signatures, heavily armed. Harrison moved to the observation window, watching as sleek warships surrounded the luminary. Your Chancellor isn't waiting to make his move. No, Venna said grimly. He isn't. Rylix believes that by forcing me to return to the capital, he can prevent the changes I'm trying to initiate. He doesn't understand that he's proving my point. Our inability to accept new ideas, to adapt, is exactly what's destroying us. What are your orders, Commander? Patil asked over the comm, her voice tense but ready. Harrison looked at Princess Venna, seeing not just a royal figure, but a reformer fighting for her people's future. Your Highness, you chose humans because we think differently, because we find ways around impossible situations. Are you ready to see just how differently we can think? A slow smile spread across Venna's face. Show me, Commander. Show my people why the future belongs to those who can adapt. As the Celestian warships moved to surround them, Harrison began issuing orders. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but humanity had never let little details like that stop them before. The real question was whether they could find a way to save not just themselves, but the entire Celestian Empire from its own perfection. The next few hours would test not just their survival skills, but their ability to prove that humanity's greatest strength lay not in perfection, but in their endless capacity to embrace change and overcome the impossible. The breaking point. The luminary hung in space, surrounded by 5 Celestian warships, their sleek hulls gleaming with deadly purpose. On the bridge, Commander Harrison watched as Lieutenant Patel's tactical display showed more ships emerging from hyperspace. 7 ships now, Commander, Patel reported, her voice steady despite the odds. They're powering up weapons systems. A transmission cut through the tension. Chancellor Rylix's hologram materialized on the bridge, his perfect features arranged in an expression of calculated concern. Princess Venna, your experiment with human companions has gone far enough. Return to the capital immediately, and we can avoid any unfortunate incidents. Venna stepped forward, her silver skin practically glowing with defiance. You're proving my point, Chancellor. Your response to any challenge is force. Control, the elimination of variables. You can't even imagine another solution. Engineering to bridge. Walsh's voice crackled over the comm. Commander, remember that spatial anomaly we encountered. I've been studying the data, and I think. Not now, Walsh. Harrison interrupted, his mind racing through options. Then he paused, looking at the determination in his engineer's eyes on the video feed. In his experience, the craziest ideas often came at exactly the right moment. Actually, go ahead. The anomaly created gravitational eddies that our sensors could barely detect, but the Celestians' perfectly calibrated systems wouldn't be able to adapt to them at all. If we could recreate even a fraction of that effect. Dr. Foster, who had been quietly analyzing data at her station, suddenly straightened. The genetic stabilization fields, she said. Every Celestian ship generates them to maintain their biological perfection. If we could disrupt those fields, it would force their ship's systems to choose between maintaining life support and weapons control. Patel finished, her fingers already flying over her tactical console. Harrison turned to Princess Venna. "Your Highness, this could get rough. Are you sure you want to?" "Do it," Venna commanded, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of royal authority. "Show them why adaptation is strength." Harrison nodded to his crew. "Walsh, you have 5 minutes to recreate that anomaly effect. Foster, help him calculate the resonance frequencies that will disrupt their stabilization fields. Patel, be ready to move the moment their systems start to fluctuate." Chancellor Relix's hologram flickered with impatience. "This is your final warning, Princess. Your human pets cannot save you from the consequences of your choices." "No, Chancellor," Venna replied calmly. "They're going to save our entire empire from the consequences of yours." Walsh's voice came over the comm again, tight with concentration. "Ready, Commander. But this is going to tax our systems to the breaking point. We'll only have one shot." "Sometimes one shot is all humanity needs," Harrison said. "Execute." The luminary's deflector dish pulsed with energy, sending out waves of gravitational distortion that the Celestian ship's sensors couldn't properly process. Their perfect systems, designed to operate within exact parameters, began to falter as they encountered variables they weren't programmed to handle. Alarms blared across the enemy fleet as their genetic stabilization fields fluctuated. The Celestian crews, so dependent on their engineered perfection, found themselves facing something they had never prepared for: uncertainty. "Their weapons are powering down," Paddle reported with satisfaction. "They're diverting all power to their stabilization fields." But the luminary wasn't unscathed. The effort of generating the gravitational distortions had pushed the ship's systems to their limits. Warning lights flashed across every console as power fluctuated throughout the vessel. "Hull breach on Deck 4. Walsh shouted over the comm. "Containment fields are barely holding." Dr. Foster's medical sensors were screaming warnings about the physiological stress on the Celestian crews. "They're not adapted to handle these conditions. Their perfect biology has become their weakness." Through it all, Princess Venna stood on the bridge, watching as her people faced the reality she had tried to warn them about. Their pursuit of perfection had left them unable to handle imperfection. "Chancellor," she addressed the struggling hologram, "you can see now what I've been trying to tell you. Our perfection is our vulnerability. We need change, adaptation, the very chaos you fear." The Chancellor's image flickered as his flagship's systems struggled to maintain communications. "You would destroy everything we've built, everything we are." "No," Venna replied firmly. "I would help us become what we need to be. Look at how these humans adapt, how they turn disadvantages into advantages. This is what our empire needs." The Celestian ships hung in space, their crews forced to confront the limitations of their engineered perfection. But the luminary was reaching its own breaking point. Smoke filled the bridge as circuits overloaded, and the hull groaned under the strain of its own gravitational distortions. Harrison knew they had to end this quickly, or they would all be destroyed. But as he looked at his crew, Walsh jury-rigging solutions in engineering, Foster adapting medical treatments on the fly, Patel calculating tactical options that no computer would consider, he saw exactly what Princess Venna had been fighting for. The true test wasn't whether they would survive this confrontation. It was whether the Celestians would learn from it, whether they could adapt enough to save their empire from its own perfection. As systems failed and alarms blared, the breaking point had become a turning point, and the future of an entire civilization hung in the balance. Unity's triumph. The void of space crackled with dissipating energy as the luminary and the Celestian warships hung in a precarious balance. Smoke cleared from the bridge as emergency systems fought to stabilize the ship's failing systems. Commander Harrison watched the tactical display, where the Celestian vessels struggled with their compromised genetic stabilization fields. "Status report," he called out, his voice hoarse from the acrid smoke. "Engineering's running on emergency power," Walsh responded, the sound of repairs echoing behind his voice. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before complete system failure." Dr. Foster looked up from her medical readings. The Celestian crews are stabilizing, but their perfect biology is having trouble adapting to the fluctuations. They're experiencing something they've never had to face before: evolutionary pressure. Princess Venna stepped forward, her silver skin dulled by the emergency lighting. Chancellor, she addressed the flickering hologram. Your ships are disabled, your crews are suffering, and yet you still can't see it. This moment, this chaos, this is where growth happens. Rylex's image wavered, his perfect features showing strain for the first time. You think this proves anything? That nearly destroying our ships demonstrates the superiority of human unpredictability. No, Harrison interrupted, stepping beside Venna. It demonstrates the power of adaptation. Right now, your ships are failing because they can't adjust to changed conditions. But look at your crews. They're already beginning to adapt, just as humans have always done. Lieutenant Patel's console beeped urgently. Commander, I'm detecting changes in the Celestian ships. Their crews, they're manually overriding their automated systems. They're adapting their protocols. A new voice cut through the communications channel. A Celestian captain from one of the other warships. Chancellor, my crew is functioning better without the genetic stabilization fields. We're thinking more clearly, moving more efficiently. The princess, she might be right. One by one, other Celestian captains joined the channel, reporting similar findings. Their crews, forced to operate without their usual perfection, were discovering capabilities they never knew they had. Walsh's voice came over the comm again. Commander, the Celestians are sending engineering data. They're helping us stabilize our systems. Their perfect technical knowledge combined with our adaptive problem-solving. It's working better than either approach alone. Harrison turned to Venna, seeing the emotion in her iridescent eyes. She had risked everything on this gamble, betting that her people could learn to embrace change if they were forced to confront it. Chancellor, Venna addressed Rylex again. This is what I've been trying to show you. Look at what we can accomplish when we combine Celestian knowledge with human adaptability. This isn't about replacing who we are. It's about becoming more than we were. The Chancellor's hologram flickered as he observed the unprecedented cooperation between the ships. Celestian precision merged with human innovation as they worked together to restore stability to all vessels. Dr. Foster's medical readings told the story of what was happening on a biological level. The Celestian crews, their perfect genetic structures are actually showing signs of micro-adaptation. It's as if their engineered biology is remembering how to evolve. That's impossible, Rylex whispered, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Impossible, Harrison smiled. That's humanity's favorite kind of possible. Your empire hasn't stagnated because of weakness, Chancellor. It stagnated because it never had to face impossible challenges. But now you have. And look, you're already changing. As the ship's systems stabilized and the crisis subsided, the true victory became clear. It wasn't just about surviving the confrontation. It was about proving that even perfection could learn to adapt. My fellow Celestians, Venna addressed all the ships, her voice carrying the authority of not just her royal bloodline, but of proven wisdom. Today we've seen what we can become. We don't have to choose between perfection and adaptation. We can have both. We can learn from humanity without losing ourselves. The Celestian crews, experiencing their first taste of adaptation in generations, responded with a unity that transcended their engineered conformity. Even Chancellor Rylex, seeing the undeniable evidence before him, began to understand. Perhaps, he said slowly, it is time for the Celestian Empire to embrace a new kind of perfection, one that includes the ability to change. As repairs continued and the fleet prepared to return to Celestian space, Harrison stood with Princess Venna in the observation deck, watching the stars. Your people will never be the same, he said quietly. No, she agreed. We won't. And that's exactly what we needed. You humans taught us that the most perfect system is one that can adapt, that can learn and grow. You showed us that strength lies not in unchanging stability, but in the ability to face change and emerge stronger. The Luminary's human crew had proven why an alien princess couldn't leave without her human companions, because sometimes the most valuable trait isn't perfection, but the beautiful chaos of adaptation. As they set course for the Celestian capital, they carried with them the beginning of a new era, where two very different approaches to existence would learn to work together, creating something greater than either could achieve alone. In the end, it wasn't just about saving an empire. It was about teaching an entire civilization that true perfection lies not in resisting change, but in learning how to embrace it. The journey ahead would not be easy, but with humanity's adaptability and Celestian wisdom combined, the possibilities were truly endless.